are Tyrians. We are many races, several professions. We practice the arts of combat as well as healing. We have foes, and we fight them without mercy. And it's time for us to claim back what is ours. It's time for us to claim back Tyria from the terror of the Elder Dragons. We can't go on living our lives in fear. We have to fight. We have to make a stand. This is our story.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode number 13 of the Chronicles of Tyria podcast, a Guild Wars 2 podcast for fans, by fans. I'd like to just thank everybody that's come out to view any of our previous episodes, and if you like what we're doing, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe, tell some friends. We're trying to get more subscribers. And I am here currently with Diint.
Woo!
And unfortunately Naveen can't join us because she's busy being an awesome person and helping out a friend, so she actually won't be with us for either of our podcasts this week. Hopefully we'll have her back next week, but in the meantime, we are joined by the lovely, the talented, the wonder from down under, Kaysee.
Well, hello! That's the best introduction I've ever gotten.
I was talking that one up all morning trying to get that word to say that. Anyway.
I think someone just got a new title on the forums.
There you go.
You know what? I really hope so.
We'll make that happen. But as far as our actual podcast goes, if you guys want to check us out, it's CoTPodcast.com, or our YouTube channel is CoTPodcast. We're going to go back to kind of our standard layout for our shows. We're going to start off talking about community stuff, and then we're going to do a lore piece on the human gods today. I know you may be wondering, who's this Kaysee person? She is one of the writers on Chronicles of Tyria, and originally, since Naveen was supposed to be here, and we were planning on interviewing Kaysee for our Thursday episode, if you want to hear more about her, where we grill her about all the things that, what's your favorite video game, and tell us more about you, and blah, 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 that's going to come on Thursday. So this will kind of just, I guess, be a teaser for that, and you can pick up little bits about her as we go along.
Yep.
And, I don't want to talk too much, because Diint and I both mentioned how she has an amazing voice and an amazing accent, so we don't want to monopolize too much of the podcast.
We would just like to thank you personally, Kaysee, because right now, our view count just skyrocketed.
Exactly. I'm going to put Wonder from Down Under as a tag in the YouTube page. So if anybody's looking for that, they can find it.
Oh, actually, when you told me about that title before, I wrote a question into a question place about games and all that stuff, and instead of signing it with my name, I actually signed it with the Wonder from Down Under.
Awesome.
So if you're watching something and the Wonder from Down Under comes up, that was me.
All right, I'll keep that in mind. Good to know. Making titles left and right. Title crafting. But yeah, for our community page, we'd like to thank everybody because we did break the 100 subscriber milestone. So thank you all of our viewers on YouTube and wherever else you guys are listening to us from, which is pretty much YouTube because that's the only place. But anyway, we did say we were going to do a thank you episode, and we haven't really officially nailed that down. But what I think it's going to be is it is going to be a question and answer session involving the fans, and it looks like if we do it this week, it's just going to be me and Diint. I don't know, maybe we'll throw Kaysee in there too. Who knows? I don't know. But if it's next week, we'll have Naveen back. But what we're possibly planning on doing is working with Raid Call, which you've heard us mention that before, when we talked about the Guild Wars 2 World versus World and the Profession workshops. But that allows a ton of people in there. So what we might do is have everybody go in there, and we'll hit record, and we'll have it set up, because I think you can mute it, so nobody else can talk except for the people that you choose to talk, and then have you guys answer the question, or type us questions in the chat function, and we'll answer those questions for you live, essentially, and then the recording of all of that will go up the next day. So that's the current plan, but whether or not that works, we don't know. So we'll figure that out as we go along. But, and this is going to be kind of open to, it'll be, Guild Wars related. It'll be, if you want to ask Diint and I personal questions, within reason, we'll answer them. But,
What's your address?
yeah, what's your sign? I'm a Cancer, by the way, in case anybody was wondering.
I really like your front yard. How do you...
Yeah, so, if you want to ask us questions about things outside of Guild Wars, that's fine too. If you have lore questions or like, hey, I like, when are you guys going to go play this? Where can I join you? Whatever. We'll be there to answer that. Hopefully we get more than, the standard people that always come to all of our events, which is the forums that know all of this stuff about us already. But, you know what?
More than they should.
Yeah. But, we'll see. I'd like to personally thank, I guess, Tari, I don't know how you pronounce it, and Kyrian from our forums, because they did give us a bunch of topic suggestions. And we will be getting to those, but it might not be for the next couple of weeks, because we kind of have some things we want to go over up until we hit the launch of the game. But after that, they're totally game for answering those questions. So, and again, thanks to all of the bronies who came out of the woodwork to thank us for mentioning anything My Little Pony related on the last podcast. So, brohoof to all the bronies out there. So...
for crying out loud.
Oh, quiet you.
I really feel sorry for all the girls that really love My Little Pony, because they just so don't get a shout out at all, do they?
To all the Pegasisters out there who also get shout out.
Is that what they're called?
Yes, that's what they're called.
That is phenomenal.
Yep.
So,
Good job.
Yeah, thanks. Good catch on that, Keith. I don't want to alienate anybody. So, all right. Things I wanted to talk about on the community piece. The stress test was last week, but I was reading articles here and there, and there were a ton of things that I realized while I was in game that I just didn't pick up on when we talked last week until I read it again. So I don't know if you guys noticed any of these things, but I guess they changed a few things with the interface when you would bring up like your hero tab. They have little check boxes now next to like your headgear and your shoulder piece, where you can just still have them on, kind of like in Guild Wars 1, but check them on and off so that you don't display it, but they're still on, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Didn't they have that before, where you could right-click it and say hide headpiece and all that?
They did have the right click to hide, but now there's actually a little checkbox in the corner.
Oh, cool.
Like that, and I noticed there actually is one for the backpacks for the engineers as well. So.
Oh, really?
Hmm?
Because that's why I wasn't going to play an engineer, because I didn't like how lumpy the backpack looked. But now that you can hide it.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that would be for other back slots as well, but we don't really know what else is out there. I'm assuming like capes and cloak type deals, maybe. But,
yeah, and eventually wings, hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. But, yeah, that would be cool. And this is the big one that a lot of people noticed, and I noticed myself too. They added a ton of voice clips to everything that you do. Like, if you discover a new area on the map, your character will say something like, "Oh, I'm excited to explore this area," or something.
Oh, wow.
If you swap your weapons in combat, if you're one of the races or the professions that can swap weapons, that triggers something. It might say, like, "I'm ready for battle," or whatever, something like that. Whenever you unlock a new skill slot, whenever you unlock an achievement, whether it's a daily achievement or whatever, you get a little voice cue for that as well. and also now class specifics. And I played an elementalist primarily, so this is where I noticed switching from, fire, water, air, earth all generates a different thing. You say something different. And apparently it's also gender specific, race specific, and also specific in some cases to whether or not you chose fierce, charming, or like dignity as your thing. They different voice cues for each thing.
Nice.
So I mean, I just put down a couple of them, and these are some of the ones that I noticed for. I don't actually have the list here in front of me, but there were a bunch that I noticed for the Sylvari Elementalist that were like, if you were switched to air, it would say like, element of air, obey me, or something weird like that, which it made my guy sound really pompous, and I hated it, but here we go. I am the wind, element of air, heed me, or joyous air, or element of earth, hear me, or element of water, attend me, or element of fire, obey me. And then things like consuming fire, persistent water, or solid earth would be what a Sylvari would say. But an Asura might say something like, I have ignition, or now you'll feel turbulence, depending on whatever attunement you would switch to. And, sounds like Kaysee was going to say something.
Sorry. On my Sylvari Ranger, I love the way she would go like, I'm as fast as the wind, when you did a speed buff. So I really enjoyed hearing that. So it depends on what you like or not.
Well, I mean, see, that's good to know because they're as fast as the wind, but humans can outrun centaurs. Which I feel might be more of an advantage. I'm not sure.
But that shows that it's race specific, doesn't it? Like,
yes.
Humans talk about centaurs and Sylvari talk about the wind.
Yeah, which I thought was cool. I heard, and this is one of my, and I didn't play a ranger to know, but apparently swapping pets as a ranger, one of the voice cues is, I choose you when you send out one of the pets.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that one, but I hope it's in.
I know it's, I don't know what race it is, what it is, but that is one, is I choose you, and like when you call the other one back, sometimes they say return. That.
Yes.
That is awesome. I was excited when I read that. And like I said,
What I enjoy, sorry, I don't mean to, just real quick, but what I enjoy is that other people can hear it as well. Yeah. It's not just audio that you're hearing, only you. It's like, people around you can hear it as well, which I enjoy. I mean, there's no really practical use to it, but I enjoy it very much.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it adds to the immersion too.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people were saying, oh, there's so many for, the Elementalists, or for, like, say, the Asura. I heard there's some for the female that was like, oh, not a corpse wasted, or this one's actually cute when you would make a minion. And like when it would die, good thing I didn't name it, or I didn't think it would pop.
Oh, no. I have to do that.
Yeah, and I mean, there were other ones, for the males had less cute sounding ones, and I'm sure if you were a Char or a Norn, it would be different. But a lot of people said, well, engineer, what about an engineer? They don't get anything. And my favorite that I found was a Char engineer saying, pew, 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 when it was... So... yeah, that happened. So... but yeah, it was just cool to see that they've, it was a really little thing, and probably didn't even need to be there. But to the fact that they would add in all of these things and like 2 to 3 options, because I got tired of hearing my human character say like, oh, like fine wine, I just keep getting better whenever I would level up. So I'm
or I could outrun a centaur every 3 seconds.
Exactly. So it's nice to see that they changed this. And I mean, like, this is, we're, what are we, 19 days out right now? And I mean,
I think so.
They're changing this, adding this many things to the game.
It really feels like polishing, doesn't it?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then there was that 10,000 file update like 2 days ago or a day ago. That who knows what else they've added.
Which I'm thinking might be, maybe, don't quote me on this, but maybe stress test this week. Maybe we'll luck out.
Or maybe, hopefully, the /dance emote.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly.
Have you seen that someone leaked those dances?
No.
Dances, plural? Because all I've seen was like a brief 2-second of the Asura.
Oh no, all the dances have been leaked online.
Oh my god.
For every race and for every gender.
Oh my god. All right. Well, that's gonna be.
I'll put a link in the description then.
Yeah, definitely.
Are they profession specific as well, or is it just race and gender?
It looks like race and gender.
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. My favorite is the Sylvari dance for sure. Like you've seen the male one and the female's quite similar, but other ones look like they're kind of in a dance club. Like the music, like the way that they're dancing is you expect to hear the duns, 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 duns behind them.
I'm excited. I can't wait for her to post that link so that we can add it and then we can both look at it.
Oh my god.
So on top of that, there were some trait changes, the actual traits, but not for a ton of races. I think I have a link of that, and I'll put that in the description. But it was mostly Necromancer buffs. They changed some things in World versus World. They raised the price of siege weaponry in both coin and badges of honor, and they raised the supply costs for, I think, the arrow carts and the ballista. So that's going to change, the way World versus World is played. And Tales of Tyria's most recent one, they talk a lot about it. So I won't talk too much. You guys can just check that out. They added that sweet new area in I know you were with me, in Lion's Arch, the Shark Maw Caverns.
Yes. Oh my god.
Sweet new jump.
So good. I didn't even care about that. I just want the pirate armor at the end. Not the armor, but the weapons.
Oh, I know. They look so sweet. And
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that I saw on YouTube that the guy who actually designed that area left a comment on someone's video who made a video about that area, and he had some really interesting comments to say about it.
Oh, that's right. You were telling me this.
Yeah. I think one of the comments he said was in the maze area when you follow the is it Pirate Soul? I'm not quite sure.
Yeah,
when you follow that, it the maze actually follows his signature, the guy who designed it. And I think there was something else, but I can't think of it at the moment.
That's so cool.
I know. How sweet would that be to be able to put something like that in a game?
Now we can forge all of his checks if you could just get a zoomed out version of it.
I just got it up here.
Mm-hmm.
And his actual comment was, nope, it's not that. His actual comment was, thanks, I appreciate it. Yeah, this area is completely my baby. I concepted it, built it, animated the ghost orb, wrote the dialogue, etc. Only I don't think I can't do it all the crazy scripting, where the player triggers the dialogue because there was problems with dialogue apparently. And then he says, the captain is named after one of my favorite vocalists. Pardon me. The captain is named after the vocalist of one of my favorite bands, Zayo. I think that's maybe Chinese. And the maze part is my signature. And he also puts a little hint. You can run through the spike gauntlet in the middle and not get hurt.
Yeah. We should have done that because we had a lot of problems with that. At least I know I kept getting hit and I was like, Diint, wait, I'm going to die. Come get me. Try to ride the lightning through the middle of the thing.
How'd that work out for you?
Right into spikes. Because especially there's the one where you're running, and then the spikes come out towards you when you're running down the hallway, so you run right into them.
What if you threw on, what was it, that one? It was that, there's a buff that the elementalists can get where they're like, they can't be knocked down.
Yeah, I wouldn't be knocked down, but I would still take the damage. And
so you
bleeding, but I wouldn't be it wouldn't stop me, and I wouldn't get hit multiple times. But it was Armor of Earth. But yeah,
because I was thinking like you could throw that on and then ride the lightning, and you'll be fine. But
I'm gonna try it on launch. I'm gonna try that. We'll see how that works.
All right. But don't forget, as soon as launch, we are making our characters and going into World versus World so we can claim all that experience.
Oh, absolutely.
No one's going to be there. Which, by the way, since we're talking about launch, I just have a very brief bit of sad news. When it comes to Head Start, I have traffic school that day.
Oh,
So I will be gone for about 6 hours.
ugh. Well, I will be... Well, I mean, you're going to be gone for 6 hours at 3 a.m.?
No, I'm going to start Head Start, obviously, as soon as it opens, but I have to leave probably about like 7 my time, so I can get up there in time to start it. And then it starts at 8, and then it ends at like 12:30, and then it'll be an hour drive back, and so, yay. Okay,
well, at least we'll get to claim all those keeps in World versus World at first.
Yes.
So... there wasn't too many more changes. I noticed one cool thing with the hotkeys. If you macro or bind, like, let's say your one skill to some other button on the mouse, or not on the mouse, but on the keyboard, like, let's say you make your one is K now for some reason, it'll actually say K at the bottom of your skill bar.
Oh, nice.
As opposed to 1. Or whatever you bind it to, and it'll bind it as an ellipsis if you made it it'll be an ellipsis for anything, but you can actually have shift modifiers where you could be like, my 6th skill is actually shift 1 to activate it, and that's how it'll set it up.
I need to do that, because I can't be moving around with my mouse and then be hitting 6, 7, and 8 with my left hand, because that's just too difficult, so I need to do that.
Yeah, so that's... And especially if you had, like, let's say, a mouse button that you could bind to shift, then you could just hold it to activate, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or whatever. So, that was just a simple thing that is pretty neat that they added. They also added, this is a big one. For engineers, they kind of got screwed on some of the when it came to their turrets, because they had... Their whole thing is their tool belt skills, which is their F1, 2, 3, 4 skills up at the top. And if you had anything else, it would have a tool belt skill. Like, let's say you had, I don't know, like a med kit, for instance, which if you hit it, it would make you replace your first 5 skills with the med kit, and, your tool belt skill would just be heal yourself. Or, if you had the goggles, that would let you, like... I think it prevents you from being blinded, and if you hit the tool belt skill, it would, apply vulnerability to your enemies. If you had, like, a rifle turret, say, as your 7th skill, your 7th skill, when you push the button, was, place a turret. And the tool belt skill was also place a turret. So it served no purpose. Now, it's like, let's say you're going to have a rocket turret. When you hit the tool belt skill, instead of placing the turret, it shoots a rocket out of your belt at your opponent. Or it shoots a flamethrower out of the belt, or a bomb, or something like that. So, it's nice to see that they kind of stepped up to give engineers a little bit of a buff where they kind of needed it.
It's nice to see that they're like responding to feedback like that, because obviously someone might have told them, well, this is kind of useless, and they've changed it.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that was engineer, I feel, is extremely underplayed by... I personally don't know enough about it to say, like, oh my god, it's so good, why does nobody play it? But I know that I've seen many less engineers than any other profession out and about in the world.
I think Guild Wars 1 fans might have trouble adjusting to that sort of a law change. And, they probably prefer to play some class that they're more familiar with. And so maybe the most people that are playing, what's it called? Oh, I forgot the name. Playing that profession would be probably maybe new players or something like that.
Yeah, we're big steampunk fans.
Yeah.
Or Thomas Engine fans.
Yes. Still no submissions for that concept test.
Yeah, guys, come on. But yeah, there wasn't, really other minor things, like they changed Mystic chests are now called Black Lions chests, as opposed to,
Yeah.
something simple. They actually added a little gray bar beneath all of your skills, and that's kind of like your range to tell you whether you're in or out of range, or how far in or close range you are for like the range units on a skill.
Nice.
They adjusted the difficulty, which I don't know if you guys noticed this. In beta weekend 3, the game was super easy, and like in comparison to previous betas.
Yes, I did.
And the stress test, they bumped it up.
Yes, I noticed that as well.
And apparently, ArenaNet put out an article on Reddit. Like, they're like, oops, there was actually a feature somewhere in the game code that they could turn on or off to like severely dumb down the game, as it were. And accidentally it got turned on for the beta weekend 3. So they're like, that wasn't our intention. That was our bad. Sorry.
At least they admitted to it. I mean, they could have totally gotten away with it.
Yeah.
But at least they like owned up to it. That's good for them.
Yeah. So I mean, that's one of the cool things I think about being like a small company like ArenaNet. You can just also one that cares about your fans.
Yes.
So. And there was one other really cool thing, and this is something I just wanted to bring up because it just is how cool ArenaNet is and what a great company they are. And I know I personally didn't even see anything like this. Did you guys encounter any treasure maps in the beta weekend or the stress test?
I saw people talking about it in map chat, but I never actually saw one.
Kaysee, did you see any?
No, I didn't.
Basically, what it is you find an item. I guess it's from like a drop from an enemy, and they're kind of rare. They're called, it's a treasure map, and you double click it, and it puts an X on your map. If you pull up your map, X marks the spot, and there's some special treasure there. And you go to that, and like it might be you have to dig a hole to get buried treasure, or do something to get some kind of treasure, and it's like just thrown and scattered throughout the world. You could possibly play the entire game and never find one. But, like, they're there.
That is amazing.
I just love that company.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's unnecessary. I'm not going to say it's unnecessary, but, like, that's nothing they needed to add. And, like, I didn't even know they were in there. And, we've all been playing for 2 to 3 beta weekends at this point. And then some stress tests, and I didn't even know.
I read an event, article about it, and they said something like it creates an event or something like that other people can join in. Oh. And there's actually an achievement as well for how many treasure maps or treasure you dig up or something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like however, finding X amount of treasure will get you, some achievement. But like I said, that's just something totally not what we even thought was in the game. And then all of a sudden they're like, hey guys, need something else to reassure you how cool we are? Boom, treasure map. So, that was pretty much it. I'm going to link, there's a Reddit thread that talks about some changes. I'll link, there was the Twitch TV interview. I don't know if you guys saw that with Jeff Grubb and Soesbee from, was it 2 days ago?
Yeah.
Don't they also talk about the mobile app? Finally talk about it in that interview?
I don't think it's in that interview, but there is another article which I am going to link to as well, which basically not for launch is the one.
But hey, at least they're talking about it.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't like, oh, it was a good idea, but we totally bailed on it.
Yeah.
I don't know, like their previous blog spot, I think it was in 2010 when they did it, the pictures that they had looked so in depth and it looked like they actually had the stuff running, but now I'm thinking it must have just been concept art or something.
Yeah, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I remember looking at that right when it came out and I was like, oh man, this is going to be so sweet, and then just nothing about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we'll link to the Twitch TV for Jeff Grubb and Soesbee. Basically, they talk about personal stories. If you're a geek, you can hear a lot about them talking about Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter and a few other things, and how things like that kind of in Dungeons and Dragons, and how Guild Wars 2 fits into those kind of typical mythos that's out there. They also talk about I'll call it a spoiler alert, but if you watch the thing, you already know. And if you guys haven't, get ready for this. They somehow I think they said it's in the game, you find out how Glint broke free from Kralkatorrik. Yes. Because somebody asked them, what about Glint's baby? And they said, you'll find out, what's it called? You find out that they break free, and then they also said that Glint's baby may not be free the way Glint was. So Glint's baby may be Kralkatorrik's a champion or something of Kralkatorrik, or maybe like a sub-champion. So it's pretty cool, and they also mentioned Kunavang and Rotscale, the other two dragons that we know about.
Mm-hmm.
So they mention them, but awesome. They are thinking about them in some degree when it comes to Guild Wars 2, and they're not forgotten. So, this was for Monday, so I was gonna remind everybody that the most recent profession workshop, well, it was actually a couple hours ago, so it doesn't really help at this point. But we're gonna put a shout out to the guys at Guild Wars 2 World versus World and Temperhoof, who's running the profession workshops. Again, check it out. It's pretty cool. We've talked about it before. We'll link to that, like I said, to that link that talks about the mobile app. I don't think there was much else. Kaysee, I know you read it too. Was there anything in there you thought that was worth mentioning outside of that the mobile app won't be out?
Not that anything that comes to mind. It was mostly like when I saw the mobile app being everything, all my thoughts were consumed by that, so I can't really remember anything else.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I do remember. They talked about Professor Yakkington.
That's right!
Yeah, and how
yes, I remember.
He will not be in Guild Wars 2. Sadly, he has moved on to greener pastures in the time between Guild Wars 1 and Guild Wars 2, as has Nicholas the Traveler. But they're not forgotten. There's actually a monument in Ebonhawk to Professor Yakkington, which on launch we can hopefully get to see.
I have no idea who that person is.
Really? Oh,
I know who Nicholas the Traveler is. I have no idea who.
Professor Yakkington is his pet yak.
Oh. Well, then never mind. This is basically the same thing.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, wow. Totally forgot about this. Regarding Zhaitan in the interview with Jeff Grubb and Rhys Soesbee, people asked them, how will a fight with, say, Zhaitan be? Will it be just an event that completely, that respawns every time, and the boss isn't really gone, and they'll continue to come back? And they basically said, like, if you go into the dungeon or whatever it is where you fight Zhaitan, and you beat Zhaitan on your character, that character will never fight Zhaitan again. Zhaitan's gone and dead. And they said they're working on adding the dead body to Zhaitan for, when you go back in there, to have Zhaitan's body be there. But you could go in with a friend, say, but you will never be able to, on that character's personal story, fight Zhaitan again because that character defeated Zhaitan.
Thank you. It's bittersweet with me because, again, it's like, oh man, I can't fight this epic boss battle ever again. But at the same time, it's like, thank you. That adds so much, what's the word? Starts with a C. Continuity.
Yeah. And
yes.
Permanency to it. It's not like, because how many times would you do something like that and feel like your character served absolutely no purpose?
Exactly.
Your hero could have been there or not, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, how many times have I gone in and finished prophecies and be like, damn, I thought I killed the Lich already, 5 times. Why are you back here?
Yeah, exactly. So
does that brings up the question, so if you are with someone they started after you and you're progressing through their story with them, if you enter that instance area with them, can you fight that fight him again because you're on their story, or will they automatically be dead for the other person? Do you have to play with people who haven't defeated him yet?
I think it will, because when Lagwyn and I were playing together, I think it was during Beta Weekend 3, we were both choosing the same storyline. Sometimes we would go into the storyline mission with me starting it, and sometimes we'd go in with him starting it. But whenever it was finished, the other person who didn't start that specific instance got the option saying, hey, do you want credit for this? Or do you want to do it again?
Yeah.
So I think the same thing's going to apply.
Unless it's a dungeon, and that you have a 5-person party,
right.
Then I think your dungeon, then you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah, that's true.
And one last thing on that one article with the mobile app, because somebody asked the same question, and they said when a story version, because you got to remember with dungeons, there's the story version and the explorable version. So when you complete this, you can explore it again, like go into the dungeon of Ara, say, but Zaitan would be dead, but the story version would be complete. But what got me, and I know Diint's going to freak out if I tell him, or at least after I explain it if he doesn't get it right away. In the world, this is from the developers, in the world, some events, typically holiday ones, will come and go, playing out temporarily and possibly leaving permanent changes to the world.
Oh my god.
There you go. Did I say? What did I say?
Oh, I can't. Oh, my feels right now. My feels. Yeah. I can't handle it.
So, for those of you that may be wondering what he's thinking about, I'm going to go out on a limb and assume he's thinking Mad King Thorn was the first thing that came to his mind.
Yes.
And that there's the potential for things that happen in a holiday event to permanently change the world forever going forward.
Mad King Thorn is getting out.
It's a possibility.
He's breaking out. That's my theory. Can we do that with Doom as well, please? Can we please do that with Doom? Can Doom come back to power? I don't care about permadeath. I just want him to come back. I love you.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think, actually, Kaysee, you have a contest going on. Why don't you talk about that too?
Yes. I just wanted to quickly mention that I started a contest. Yay! It's called the Lattice Configurator Contest. And basically, while I was out exploring in the Beta Weekend 3, I found this little Azura base, and I'm not even going to try and say the name of the base. You can just read that. But it's in this base they're experimenting with gate travel, Azura gate travel, and something's gone wrong, and the Lattice configurators need you to check their calculations. And so I've started a little contest, and I've got 10 of these little puzzles or conundrums for you to solve, and if you solve it, you will get a forum title and a little badge in the form of a forum signature that you can wear proudly and say, I'm the Lattice configurator solver, yay!
Exactly.
And I just would really like everyone to know that the puzzles aren't really that hard. Like, when you look at them, they look really, really scary, and the wording of them is a bit difficult. But once you kind of work through them, they're quite easy to do.
Yeah, I would check them out. They are pretty. I actually ran into them in the beta weekend, but I said, this is too complicated to look at right now. I gotta go. So check that out.
I looked at the contest, and my brain just kind of like folded in on itself and went to sleep. So.
And there's a little tidbit for all the people who like lore and like the new Crichton language. The letter on the left is real, and it's a full letter, and I think after the contest I might release it, but you can actually read it and see what I think his name is Techie has to say.
Okay. Well,
awesome.
There you go, everyone. I think that's it for our community piece, unless you guys have anything else that you wanted to plug or mention.
No.
Kaysee, how about you? Anything you want to mention?
Oh, I should probably quickly mention, you know how I told you about the dances?
Yeah.
Well, while we were talking, I went to the page and the owner of the channel has been terminated.
Oh.
And I I quickly searched on YouTube and I couldn't find them, so
Well, sorry everyone who's looking forward to that, myself included, and Diint as well. We're all a little upset, but I guess ArenaNet wanted to keep that under wraps.
I think the dances weren't actually finished, to tell the truth, and that's why I think it was better that you didn't see them, because a couple of them didn't look so great. So I think that they're still working on them.
Okay. Well, at least now we know. We won't go crazy looking for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we also want to just bring up, we mentioned it briefly, but if you guys still do want to submit, we would love to take submissions for a Thomas Engine concept art. So if you guys want to do that, that would be fantastic. So, I mean, I know we kidded around about it, but we will give you a forum title, and you will get recognition for that.
I will buy you a T-shirt with it on it.
I mean, come on, guys. Show some Thomas Engine some love. Come on.
How about this? Every time that you don't submit art for Thomas Engine, Doom kills a brony.
That is just grossly. I don't even know. I don't even know.
That's life.
Whatever.
Does Doom not like bronies or something?
I don't know. Apparently.
You're gonna have to take that up with him.
I guess.
I'm not going anywhere near Doom.
Let's see how many subscribers unsubscribe after that comment. See what happens. Okay, we'll be back at 50 subscribers.
I guess I shouldn't even mention that Doom happens to like the "Call Me Maybe" song.
Oh no! See that has. Well, you know what? We'll post a link to that too, just for fun. It's Doom's favorite song, but it's a little bit different than you might expect. We'll leave it up to you guys to figure that out.
All right.
All right. So on to the lore. Here we are, probably like 2 hours in right now.
I think we're. I don't know. I think we're about an hour in.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, whatever. That's fine. That's about normal for us.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the lore, we're talking about the human gods. So to start, I just kind of wanted to. We'll all kind of talk about this, but we know their gods are gone pretty much in Guild Wars 2. They've left Tyria. They're not really influencing Tyria the way they were in Guild Wars 1. Obviously, they still will answer prayers to some extent, or at least so we think, through the human racial skills. But, whether or not that's actually a prayer being answered by the god or just clever use of magic, it's kind of speculative. But in Nightfall, the gods tell you they're going to basically leave Tyria, and, our work here is done, essentially. It's up to the humans. Now it's on you guys to kind of take care of Tyria yourself. But it's kind of interesting, and I wanted to see what you guys thought about this, that, the Char couldn't fight back the humans, and we held them at our gates for years and years, and we triumphed and defeated gods and all this other stuff, and then the gods leave, and in 250 years, we're down to one city, and we have, nothing left. We're basically dying. So what are your guys' thoughts on that?
I'm embarrassed.
So much for human spirit.
Yeah, right.
I think, I think it's about time that, the gods let other races kind of flourish. But saying that, the Azura were quite powerful in the depths of Tyria, even though they didn't have any human gods.
Right.
So maybe the Char were just really mean to the gods at one point, and they just went, you know what? Screw the Char.
Yeah, right.
Do you think that's why they left, though, is to kind of let other races flourish? Because that's an interesting theory. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I never really kind of heard a reason for them leaving. It was just kind of like, y'all are grown. Put on the big boy panties and take care of yourself.
It's weird because I always wonder, why would the gods bring humans to Tyria? Like, what was the reason? And then to kind of go, well, you kind of need to take care of yourself. We don't really care anymore. It's kind of weird after putting so much effort into keeping them alive.
Right.
So I don't think the gods would ever let humans die out as a race, but maybe they need to be taught humility or something like that.
Well, I have a theory, and it's a bit of a stretch, to say the least. But my theory is, and I'm sure Lagwyn's going to talk a little bit about this place, but when it comes to the town of Ara, which is where I believe it was Duena, Balthazar, and Melandru used to live.
Mm-hmm.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
And that's where the fight with Zaitan's going to happen. Now, spoiler alert, stop listening for like 2 minutes, tops. In Divinity's Edge, or Destiny's Edge, rather, they have help with Glint to fight Krakatoric when they almost won. So it's basically clear to say that, 5 humanoid-ish beings can't really take on a huge dragon, so they need help. They need some huge help, and they got Glint's help with that. Now, I'm thinking that we're not going to have Glint to help us fight Zaitan in Ara, the Dungeon of Ara. So I'm thinking, because of the Temple of Ages, I believe it's called, in Guild Wars 2, we saw the statues, and we saw how there's just a small little hint that the gods are paying attention, like how in Guild Wars 1 with the statues being active. When the world had favor, how Grenth's statue was all misty, and the Melandru's statue was all covered in foliage, and the Duena statue was all light, and so on and so forth. There's a little bit of that going on the statues in the Temple of Ages. They're not just completely inactive. There's a little bit of foliage going on the Melandru statue. There's a little bit of light shining onto the Duena one. And I thought that was really interesting, saying they might be paying a little bit of attention. So I'm thinking what would be awesome, but like I said, it's a bit of a stretch, if that during the fight with Zaitan and Ara, instead of Glint coming and helping us, it would be, say, Melandru and Duena popping down and helping us, cap Zaitan.
I think it would be great. I don't know. Again, I agree with you that it's a bit of a stretch. I mean, it would be fantastic. But, I'm interested to see what happens. When we talked about this before, the only thing that I think about is their whole stress to make it not just human centric, to make it all about all the races. That kind of makes it I guess it's not really an advantage to play as a human, but I feel like it would be more beneficial to you if you played as a human and learned all the human storyline stuff.
Well, I also think, regardless of what race you play, I think it would make sense for one or two of the gods to come down and help you if the battle was taking place in Ara, where the gods used to live. They're like, this is our turf, GTFO, please, and thanks.
Yeah, right.
And then say in an expansion, when we're fighting another Elder Dragon, some other superior being that is relevant to a different race comes and helps out there.
I like it. I think it would be great, and it kind of subscribes to that whole, maybe there's 6 dragons, one for every god.
No, because I think that would be too human-centric. I think if there was 5 dragons, one for each race.
Okay, that's true. That would make sense.
Yeah.
Kaysee doesn't sound convinced.
Sorry, that's my thinking and trying to speak at the same time voice. Doesn't work well. No, because I was actually thinking along the line, I really like the idea of the gods perhaps becoming corrupt, and that's why they went away or something like that. And because one thing, I don't think this is really what's going to happen, what Arena are thinking about, but if you I'll talk about this later on, but you'll see pictures, concept art of Abaddon's Marganites, which look a lot like the Branded.
Oh, that's true.
So So I really like that idea, but I don't think it's what ArenaNet are thinking about.
Well, I mean, it's just we're so close to actually finding out.
Yeah.
19 days.
19 days. To get to end game, 19 days.
Yes, I've got 1 day to beat Zaitan.
If you do it, I'll send you like
go to
load of puppies or something like that.
Puppies?
Puppies? He doesn't like puppies. He doesn't like puppies, seriously.
No, I'm like excited now. Like that's what I'm gonna do. I just want to make sure I heard that right and that wasn't some weird Australian slang for something else, like candy or something. I don't know.
It was going to be candies originally, but I thought, no, if you get to the end of the game in 1 day, you deserve puppies.
All right. I mean, I'm gonna try.
Just handfuls of puppies.
What's his name now? Ormar? It was Torin for a little while. Now it's Ormar.
Yeah.
He said that he told me from the get-go that our goal is to be the first people to beat Zaitan. So that we can say Chronicles of Tyria was the first guild to defeat Zaitan. So,
That's good.
What was that?
That's good. Good aspiration.
Yeah, I mean, I'll try. I mean, I've got the game comes out on a Friday or a Saturday at like 3 a.m. for me, and then the following, not like the day after, but the following Sunday, I'm getting married. So we'll see. I've got about a week. And then I'm on a honeymoon for 2 weeks. So I already said I have to power level like crazy in that 1 week, so that when I get back from the 2 weeks, hopefully everybody will be just catching up to where I was. That's my goal, but we'll see. So yeah, I think that's pretty much all I kind of wanted to mention about the gods. Is just they're not really present here in Guild Wars 2, and it's interesting that they left and then kind of everything went to shit. The humans are kind of struggling. Oh, and this is something I heard mentioned a few other places that I thought was interesting. It's the humans in Guild Wars 2 are very similar to usually what's the elven race in almost every other fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Where like the old elven race is now going into decline, and they're trying to survive. And I just thought that ArenaNet kind of turned everything on its side there, and it's like, you know what? No, it's the human and the elves, which are basically, we could say they're similar to the Sylvari. The elves are usually these ancient, wise creatures that have like tons of amount of wisdoms and have been around forever, and the Sylvari are only 25 years old. And the humans have been around forever and are now starting to disappear. So
yeah, I think.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I think they mentioned it on the Twitch TV interview, didn't they? They mentioned that they didn't want the Sylvari to be like the elves, and they made them like naive instead of really cynical like normal elves would be.
Yeah, maybe that's where I heard it. It sounds. I think you're right. Just just different ways of reading it, doing things to kind of change up the genre and make this their game and not be tied to anything, ripping off any other type of game. So
yeah,
or fantasy lore of any kind. All right, so the next piece I'm going to talk about Ur. Before we talk about the gods themselves, I'll talk about Ur, which is the continent that the gods used to live on. So Ur was the original human settlement on Tyria. So as we know, the gods brought the humans to Tyria from somewhere else, and this is where they settled. And they kind of worked and started to build, cities. Well, the main city is Ara, but they kind of did it together, humans and gods together. It's kind of located, it's south, kind of west of Ascalon, and it's across, the ocean from Krita. And as Diint mentioned earlier, it was once inhabited by Melandru, Duena, and Balthazar. And we know that for a fact, but there's no knowledge as to whether or not Abaddon lived there either. We don't know. And
that's iffy.
Yeah, and we probably wouldn't know anyway, because I'm sure it would have been stricken from the records or lost at some point.
Well, we might find out if we go there into the dungeon and see that sculptor has a statue of Abaddon there or not.
Exactly, which I'm excited to find out. And we'll see, maybe there'll be a Doom one, since Doom was the original god of death. Down, boy. So...
I'm not all, hot and bothered for it. I'm just excited.
All right. Well, either way. We mentioned this before. Or was one of the 3 nations in the Guild Wars alongside Kryta and Ascalon. So, and just a brief little history snippet. They fought in the Guild Wars, and then the Char invaded after the Searing and started invading Ascalon, and they were working their way south to invade Or, and they fought their way up the beaches to the gates of Ara. And Or the Orians didn't think this was going to happen, because a lot of their troops were protected from the Guild Wars and everything because they're separated by the sea, so they thought they could have just outfought the Char. But basically, they were wrong, and the Char fought all the way up to the gates of Ara, and this is where Vizier Kilbran took one of the lost scrolls and spoke the words from it and caused all of Or to sink beneath the ocean. And this event was called the Cataclysm. And this actually is where the Sea of Sorrows was the water that was above, that covered all of Or, which, if you think about, is actually the title of the 3rd book that's been yet to be released. So I'm sure that's...
January!
Yeah, so I'm sure that's going to have something to do with Or in some aspect.
I don't know. Maybe we could ask Jeff Grubb if we ever get him as an interview on the podcast.
Listen, we're trying. We'll see what we can do. One step at a time. And I'm sure we couldn't get anybody from ArenaNet until after launch anyway. So.
Hey, I was just throwing it out there in case Jeffy was listening.
Well, I hope he is. So, and as we know from Eye of the North, Orion territory actually goes somewhat into the Tarnished Coast, because there's the dungeon, the Shards of Or, which is all the way in the Tarnished Coast, but you still have influence from all the undead and everything that are in Or. Which actually is also why you see a lot of undead in the Sylvari areas and the Tarnished Coast as well. And Zhaitan was underneath Or, and when he awoke, he rose, and, the tidal wave of displacing all the water that was covering up Or as it rose washed, out the original Lion's Arch and caused all that kind of devastation. So that's basically Or. Unless anybody else has something they want to chime in on about Or.
Not really. I do just want to give praise to the fact that whenever we do see the undead in the Sylvari area, that it's actually the undead of multiple races. It's not like the cliche. Because honestly, I don't know why I was expecting it, but I was expecting it to only be human undead.
Yeah.
But it was really nice, kind of unexpected, but I don't know why it was unexpected to see, undead Asura, and undead Char, and undead Norn.
Mm-hmm.
Except for Sylvari, obviously, because, but whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was still really cool.
Yeah. I agree. I too automatically assumed undead meant humans. So, the next piece...
This is because we're racist.
Yeah, basically.
Human-centric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to touch briefly on, like we said, Ara is the city, the main city, the city of the gods that's contained on Or, and it's also one of the dungeons, and we know that it has a unique armor set. If you complete the dungeon multiple times, you can get the different armor sets. And then I guess the next thing I'll go into, and we're going to kind of split this up between all of us as the 6 gods, but I'm going to talk about Dwayna first. And I'm not going to go, I've got a few things I want to mention, but, Diint did kind of touch on them when we did the human lore piece when we talked about religion. But of the 6 gods, Dwayna, she's the goddess of life and air. Air elementalists, divine favor and healing monks, leadership and motivation paragons, and wind dervishes worship her. She's the leader of the gods, and she has the oldest writing, any kind of scripture and anything written regarding Dwayna. She has the oldest dating back are written about her rather than any other gods. She competes with Grenth over the Winter's Day Festival to see whether spring or winter will, come earlier or last longer. She's directly tied to the season of the Zephyr, which is basically the Tyrian phrase for spring. And there's a lot of rituals and things tied into the season of the Zephyr, and she's, her visage, and there's often prayers to Dwayna. She's often depicted as a tall, slender woman rising above the ground on feathered wings. And there's just, outside of that, that's pretty much, we don't know too much about them. And there was thing from the scriptures of Dwayna, which date back to before the Exodus of the gods. I just wanted to read this. It says, "And when the world rang with the clanging of swords, and did fire fall from the skies, Dwayna, goddess of life and air, heard the wailings and pleas of the weak. And when the rumblings of war did not cease, came her charge, Doric, who did prostrate himself at her feet. And cast she now a glance upon the war-torn lands, and wanted flesh of the fallen, and with tears upon her cheek, did lay her gentle hands upon the prostrate man. Then saith she unto him and all her charges, Lay down thy weapons, and as I have done unto ye, so ye must do for your brethren. Offer protection to the weak, give solace and shelter to those who need it. Be ye a salve to the wounded, for I am your goddess, and I will give blessings to all who follow these teachings."
Amen.
Yeah, exactly. That is, and then, that all ties into the whole her being the goddess of life and healing. And she mentions Doric, who was King Doric, who ruled over both Or and Ascalon at the same time, although I believe he lived in Or. And then when he died, Ascalon and Or kind of separated. I believe. I could just be making that up completely. But that rings a bell in my brain, so we'll go with that. And then since I mentioned Dwayna, I figured I'd also mention Malcor, because they kind of tie together, and then we'll throw it over to Kaysee, and she's going to talk about Cormyr and Abaddon. But basically, Malcor, he was the sculptor of the gods. And let's see, I think I actually have a story of Malcor in a scripture-y type reading as well. But basically, you couldn't look at any of the gods of Tyria without going blind. So, for whatever reason, Malcor could to some extent. So, he only looked upon each god for a few moments before he went to make their statue, so he could limit his loss of vision as much as possible. And let's see, which is better sounding? I think this is the story of Malcor and Dwayna. When the gods Balthazar, and this isn't from a Guild Wars 2 source, so it says Cormyr, even though that wasn't the case because she wasn't around, so we'll just kind of take Cormyr out of here. But when the gods Balthazar, Dwayna, Grenth, Lissa, and Melandru arrived in Tyria, it was impossible because of their divine nature to appear before human eyes without blinding them. Thus they decided to fetch a sculptor so he could shape statues in their image. When the eyes of the sculptor Malcor fell upon the face of Dwayna, his heart was instantly filled with a pure and unconditional love. It became impossible for him to turn down any of Dwayna's requests, and thus the creation of the statues was commenced. One after another, the gods presented themselves in his studio, and for each one Malcor carved a statue in their image. Once the statue was finished, the god returned to the city of Ra, where no human could enter. So it was that Dwayna finally entered the studio of the sculptor. Malcor sublimated his art so that all the grace and beauty of the goddess radiated from his statue. And as long as he worked on the statue, and as long as he could enjoy the infinite happiness which the presence of Dwayna gave him. Alas, then came the fateful moment when the statue was completed, and where the goddess would leave for Ra. Unable to bear the despair that grasped him, when the figure of the goddess had disappeared from the horizon, he threw himself from a cliff. The place where Malcor lost his life now bears his name and is called the Strait of Malcor. So, this is actually a waterway you can see in, I don't know if it's listed on any of the maps for Guild Wars 1, but it's definitely on the maps in the front of both Guild Wars 2 novels.
Yeah.
So, that is the story of Malcor. And it's interesting because they call him a sculptor, They don't say that he's human, though. So I wonder if that might tie in a little bit to how he didn't just instantly lose his vision.
He's an Etten.
Maybe. I hope. And that explains why Dwayne wanted nothing to do with him. I wonder if she felt bad. Do you think they feel bad, gods like that? Like, oh, I asked this guy to do this because I had him so whipped because he looked at me and fell in love. Like, hey, can you make statues for me and my buds? Thanks, bro.
And then, like, over time, she starts to, like, really despise him because he's a Jotun and he looks all ugly, and she turns about and she's like, oh, he keeps looking at me.
And then
make him stop.
That's so sad.
And then he's just like, oh my god, you left. No, and he dies. You think she's like, aw, that's really sad. Or she's like, finally, that guy.
She's singing Mariah Carey. Why are you so obsessed with me?
Oh gosh, I don't think I can look at Dwayne the same way anymore.
She's Mariah Carey.
Internet. All right, for those, somebody's got to Photoshop Mariah Carey's face on Dwayne's body.
We'll do it.
We'll throw it up on the forums somewhere or on the main page, alongside with Thomas Engine if he ever shows up. So, all right. So with that, I'm gonna throw it to Kaysee, and Casey's gonna talk about Cormier and Abaddon. Oh, and before I do, I want to just point out that we're gonna put a link or throw it in a public Google Docs or something where you can see the ridiculous notes that Kaysee took.
It's stupid. Like, not like bad. It's like stupid, ridiculously good.
Yeah, because it makes... I didn't want to do it. Naveen said I should. I didn't want to do it because it's going to make us look horrible. Just have, like, written notes, and she has this ridiculously awesome, like, PDF with pictures, and like Diint said, you could submit it as, like, part of a research paper to a college university, and it would probably hold up.
Well, I actually really enjoy doing these, and I was actually kind of, depending on if people like them, I was thinking of making it a project on writing things up in a nice way for people to see. Like, for the next episode, the script, I put blood and tears into that PDF, so I hope you guys enjoy for the next episode as well.
Yeah, because he sent me your file for the gods, and I was like, oh my god. And then he says, you don't even want to see the one she has for the script. You don't even want to.
You know what? I'm going to send this over to you right now while Kaysee gets started on Cormier and Abaddon.
Okay.
So, Cormier and Abaddon, I have to say that I actually don't own Nightfall, so for this I came at a really kind of Wikipedia viewpoint of these two gods, but I came really interested in them. So you probably, if you played Nightfall, you probably know a lot more about Cormier than I do, but this is what I've got on her. Cormier is the goddess of order, spirit, and truth, hence she is often referred to as the goddess of truth and knowledge. I don't really know much about her after her ascension to godhood, but there's a lot on her mortal life. So she was probably... she was born in Alona probably, and she was a mortal paragon, and she was the leader of the Order of Sunspears, an elite guard devoted to the protection of Alona. One of the things that I really wonder about Cormier is that she was responsible for the release of Palawa Joko. Is that how you say it?
I think so.
Palawa Joko, I'm not quite sure, someone correct me, in exchange for information about how mortals could venture into the desolation. And so, like, by the time of Guild Wars 2, I can't say it, I'm just going to say Joko. Joko has become, like, a major menace in Alona, and is, like, really awful and killing lots of people. And he was responsible for damming a river. What was the river again?
The Elon River, I believe?
That's it. Responsible for damming that and creating a lot of havoc. But, you know, in her lifetime, she did a lot of good things. You know, she stopped the awakening of Abaddon. And, you know, her fate and Abaddon's fate are really closely intertwined. And basically she helped lead a war against Corona, and she stopped the rituals and everything, but she was actually captured in one of the battles by the Hunger. And I'm not quite sure if this is what's it called, confirmed in game, but I'm pretty sure the Hunger takes her sight away from her. Yeah. And after that, she's pulled into the realm of torment, the lair of Abaddon, and after Abaddon's defeat, she absorbs Abaddon's power. I think by using a gift of the gods or something like that, she gets a gift from him, and it prevents her from destroying the land. But by absorbing Abaddon's power, she ascends to godhood and becomes the goddess of truth. And what really makes me wonder about this is if she got a gift from the gods. Obviously, Cormia was accepted, or she had the other gods' blessings to become a god. So that was quite interesting that the other gods can choose that other people who can become another god.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a little scripture here on her scrap.
I'm sorry. Oh, then you slay me.
Sorry.
That's gonna be linked, so don't worry.
Yeah.
That's
You'll
Mariah
see what
Carey, by the way.
We're laughing at Mariah Carey.
I'm sorry. Anyway, continue.
Could have picked a better time to link that. My bad.
No, that's alright. It's beautiful. Anyway, continue, Kaysee.
Continue. In Guild Wars 2 time, there's like a statue of her in Divinity's Reach, and there's a little description on it says, Cormia was a true warrior, an inspirational leader, and finally a shining light in the darkness. She lost her sight but gained vision. She gave her life so that people might live theirs, and that's by Jura. I think it's the Master of Whispers or something like that. And Jura is his real name. And then another inscription of her is, and so it came to pass that Spear Marshal Cormia, a hero of all Alona, was pulled into inky blackness surrounding the god of secrets, that's Abaddon. And though her sight had been robbed, her body racked, and her spirit flayed, she remained resolute. And so she was joined within the realm of torment by fearless allies. Well, there's meant to be a character name and fearless allies, but I took that out. And other heroes who stood at her side as she sought to thwart nightfall. Together they did battle through fear and anguish and madness until at last they stood before the face of the imprisoned god, he who had challenged the five and lost, he who had threatened to break the chains placed upon him by the other gods, he who now sought to bring nightfall to the world, the dark god, Abaddon. And so did Cormia and her allies engage in the dark god in titanic battle, and through her power and their combined skill and bravery and the blessings of the five true gods did Abaddon at last face his ultimate death. Yet the power of a god cannot be destroyed, and Cormia, making a choice that only a mortal could make, did take upon herself the mantle of the goddess of truth, with all its power and responsibility and its dominion and duties. And so by mortal hands did a new immortal enter creation. So that's her scriptures. And so I think that's a pretty good explanation of Cormia. You guys got any questions?
No, you have nothing left there for us to question.
Yeah, sorry. I was also trying to watch the Felicia Day video while you're talking at the same time. I feel bad. I was listening, but I was also watching.
That's okay. I've done that before as well.
No, I'm just waiting for Diint to get the email that has your notes.
Oh no, I've been looking at it, and it's just
you know, I don't know what it is, but it's makes me feel very small. It's like, hey, this is how you should do things.
No,
by a document.
I really I know we shouldn't be talking about it now, but I am seriously thinking about starting like a, save the script guild or something like that.
The script movement.
So I'll just keep on going.
Sure, sorry.
I actually found some trivia about Cormier that I know that most of the people who listen to our podcast actually know a lot about Guild Wars lore already. So I tried to find trivia that they might not know. And one of them was information in the Guild Wars the Guild Wars DAT, which is a data file for Guild Wars, suggests the Realm of Torment was renamed to the Redeeming Realm after Cormier's ascension. So Cormier kind of changed everything up, applied new wallpaper and all that sort of stuff. And the second trivia point I had was in Guild Wars 2, the human noble personal story, Logan references Cormier by saying, he's arresting someone. He goes, treason against the crown, and you're being arrested for treason against the crown and the citizens of Kryda. May Cormier judge your words justly, and may Dwayna have mercy on you. So
I actually remember playing that part.
I like how it's added now, like, those sort of references make you go, oh my god, it's Cormier, that sort of thing.
Right, exactly.
And I guess I'll go on to Abaddon now, because
Sure.
them two are very closely related. So Abaddon is the god of secrets and water. So he's not a god anymore. He's pretty much dead. And I think Jeff Grubb actually said that he won't ever come back. He's dead. Let him die. All that sort of stuff. So the best thing I like Abaddon's one of those characters that I'm not quite sure if he's good or bad. And because I didn't play Nightfall, I don't have that emotional connection to Abaddon being a bad character. So I've just read what's on Wiki.
Mm-hmm.
And see, the thing that makes me think he's good is he gave the gift of magic to Tyria.
Right.
And I don't know, he's the god of secrets, yet he's giving away the biggest secret of magic, so that's a bit weird. So I've got, and it's very weird for an evil character. You don't think he would want to empower the lesser races, But it doesn't actually say he's evil. He just says he's the god of secrets. So.
Right.
So what I've written is Abaddon was the god who gifted magic to Tyria. However, the gift of magic caused a great war, and King Doric ventured to the city of gods to beg that they retake the power. The 5 gods limited the use of magic through the creation of the Bloodstones. However, this angered Abaddon, and he waged war on the other 5 gods. He was defeated and imprisoned, weakened, and chained in the realm of torment. It is said that this war caused the gods' exodus. Not quite sure about that one, but it would kind of make sense that if, Abaddon kind of screwed everything up and the gods realized, oh shit, we've got a lot of power. We've got a lot of, if one of us does the wrong thing, we're going to cause this massive war and kill hundreds of people, thousands of people. Maybe we shouldn't be an influence on them anymore. So I was thinking maybe that was their thought process after the war with Abaddon. And I'll just read a scripture of Abaddon because this relates to the Marganites, because the Marganites are very interesting. They have a very interesting history. And it goes, and so it came to pass that Jadoth, being persecuted by the horrific forgotten armies and hounded from his home, did seek refuge among the cooling mists of the crystal sea. Untold weeks passed, and as Jadoth huddled in his sanctuary with nothing to see save the endless ripples of boundless ocean. On the 51st day of his exodus, a frightful sight manifested before Jadoth's eyes, the unmistakable shape of the forgotten warships upon the horizon's shimmering edge. And prayed Jadoth, Abaddon, Lord of the everlasting depth, keeper of secrets, open my eyes and bestow upon me the knowledge of the abyss, so that I might smite mine enemies and send them to the watery depths. An unsettling silence swept across the waves. The twilight sky shattered, and stars streaked down upon the forgotten armada. The sea boiled and ruptured, and gave birth to a maelstrom from which not even light could escape, transforming the sky above into a midnight void. And thus was magic gifted to Jadoth, first a chosen of Abaddon and first of the Marganites. So the Marganites were humans once, and then if you played Nightfall, you know that they're actually enemies, demonic servants of Abaddon. But they actually had a history, and they were people of the sea who chose to solely worship Abaddon. About 175 years before the war with Abaddon, they had completely conquered the unending ocean and and were settling along the coast of Alona. But in a year before the war with Abaddon, 1 BE, Abaddon saved the Marganites from a forgotten attack, which was what I just described there. And Jadoth, the chosen of Abaddon, who prayed for Abaddon's help, was gifted magic and became the first Marganite. And it's kind of insinuated that Jadoth was transformed into a demonic servant of Abaddon. But when Abaddon was imprisoned in the realm of torment, his followers, the Marganites, who had defiled the shrine of the other 5 gods because there was so much, ill will between the gods after the gods limited the magic. And Abaddon's followers kind of went, we don't like the other gods, and went and defiled all their shrines in I think it's the Temple of Six Gods or something like that. And the Marganites were cast down as well, so they were imprisoned in the realm of torment with Abaddon, and which I think is a pretty harsh punishment for a whole race of people to be put down into the realm of torment. But over time, the constant exposure to Abaddon's power transformed the Marganites from humans to demons, and they're what people were fighting in Alona. But despite being a demon servant of Abaddon, Marganites still exhibit individual thinking, as seen by the Lost and the Apostate, who betrayed Abaddon. So, do you guys remember them when you played through Nightfall?
I have not finished Nightfall.
I have. Yes, I do.
So, I found the Marganites to be very interesting, and I think, it's really a harsh punishment to an entire race, but they're gods, they can do what they want.
Yeah, no, and I mean, we mentioned them briefly a couple episodes back, how they're very similar looking to the Mersat as well.
Yeah.
Just purpley Mersat. But yeah, no, I didn't until you mentioned it earlier. I really didn't even think about how they look similar to the Corrupted and the Branded.
Yeah, that purple, and in one of the in the PDF file that I've got, there's concept art by I can't remember his name, the one that left recently.
Yeah.
The woman in the middle, like half her chest and arm is completely purple and branded like this sort of purple misty, and like if you actually get photos of when we played the Branded in the an event, it looks really similar.
Huh.
But it might be a coincidence. And just basically the rest of Abaddon's history is that he just wreaked havoc across all the Guild Wars 1 game until he died in Nightfall. I don't know if we should have probably mentioned spoilers before this.
Yeah, maybe, but that's fine.
It's Guild Wars 1. It's been out since forever. It's older than God. They've had plenty of time to finish it.
Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's at this point, I think Guild Wars 1 stuff isn't really spoilery.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
In fact, I think that they'd be appreciative to learn about this, especially if they haven't had the chance to play Nightfall, because it nicely segues into Guild Wars 2. So,
yeah,
you're welcome.
I feel like I'm rambling on a bit. Abaddon, instigated a lot of big events in Guild Wars 1, like the Titans release, and Razakel. And the Fortune Teller, which is, I know Fortune Teller is factions. I think Razakel is the prophecies, and the Titans are also prophecies. They were all Abaddon's doing, or Abaddon's influence. So the various disasters were caused by him, such as the Jade Wind, the Searing, the Cataclysm. So all like big disasters are basically his fault. And he tried to escape, but it didn't work, and he just died in the end. Yay.
Yeah. And well, it's because Cormier took his power, I believe.
Yeah. In just some trivia I have is Abaddon is an intensive form of the word of destruction in Hebrew, so that's probably where they got the word Abaddon. And Abaddon in the New Testament is a male angel described as the destroyer angel of abyss, and king of a plague of locusts resembling horses with crowned human faces, woman's hair, lion's teeth, wings, and the tail of a scorpion that torments people for 5 months.
So basically a chimera?
Sorry. Yeah, that does sound like chimera. But tortures people for 5 months is very specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all the information I have on Abaddon, and just quickly saying, that we're not going to hear from him again in Guild Wars 2. He's dead. Leave him be. All that good stuff.
I hope we don't, because, people are saying like, oh, well, what if, well, the other thing that people were saying is maybe because Abaddon could have been in Ara and Zaitan is underneath Ara, that maybe Zaitan corrupted Abaddon.
Oh.
But I kind of like the theory and the story of Abaddon being completely separate from the Elder Dragons, and rather than trying to tie everything together, because I feel like I don't think they need to do that.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have, the story of Abaddon going corrupt because Abaddon went corrupt, not because some Elder Dragon corrupted him.
Right.
So, and we're going to throw it to Diint in a second here. And like Kaysee said, he was defeated, and the only way you can defeat a god is a god can't defeat another god. The only way a god can be defeated is if a human that's worthy takes the power from the god, therefore becoming a god themselves. Which is what Cormier did, and because that's why the gods chose Cormier, because they knew that was the only way they could defeat Abaddon, would basically be to replace him. And that's what Cormier did.
Okay.
So, next is going to be Diint's favorite. We got Doom and Grenth. So,
okay.
I just saw what you referenced, Diint. So, we have some very good Mariah Carey videos both for you guys, or images rather. So, all right, Diint. So Doom and Grenth, take it away.
Yes.
Thank you. Oh, and thank you, Kaysee, by the way.
Yes.
Thank you.
There's not really much on Doom that I haven't already covered for the human episode that we, in my religion segment. But I guess I'll recap for those who missed it. Doom used to be the god of death and judgment. However, Grenth kind of took over that and cast down Doom from his tower, and basically his throne, and took Doom's place. I don't like that, but I'm not going to have this segment be biased, so I'm just going to roll on through that. Doom now, after being cast down, because Grenth tried to kill him, he can't be destroyed, so he's just like constantly just being defeated. He is currently residing in the underworld, which obviously you could go to in Guild Wars 1, and you can actually fight Doom in the end of the underworld, because what's basically going on is that there's this huge war going on in the underworld between Grenth's minions and Doom's minions, and Doom's minions are trying to free Doom and try to get him back up to power. Grenth, however, he managed to cast down Doom, and he did not do it alone because he's a cheater, and can't do anything by himself. He has to use the 7 Reapers that you actually end up freeing in the underworld. But he used these 7 Reapers to help him cast down Doom and defeat him.
Totally not.
I said I would try. I didn't say I was going to succeed. But yeah, Grenth, he's the god of death, and he's the god of ice. And when it comes to profession-wise in Guild Wars 1, he's the patron god of the assassins, of water elementalists, obviously necromancers, and as well as ritualists. He is greatly revered And he's actually celebrated a lot during the Winter's Day Festival. And I don't... Lagwyn, did you touch on that at all?
All I mentioned was that Grenth and Dwayna compete during Winter's Day, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah, well, what you said. Yeah. And Grenth is actually also, when it comes to, because how you mentioned the seasons, Grenth is tied to the season of Colossus, which is winter, basically.
All I can think of is Colossus from X-Men and him having his own season in Guild Wars. It's the season where we worship the metal skin-covered Russian.
I just imagined Colossus with the face of Grenth. Or
Do it.
Versa.
Do it up.
I'm
going there with Mariah Carey.
One at a time, boo-boo.
All right.
Yeah, he defeated Doom, the Seven Reapers, and after that, because Doom had this tower that he was basically judging from, and Doom basically cast down the entire tower. He destroyed it and shattered it, leaving behind these storms of chaos, which you can actually go to in Guild Wars 1, which is called the Chaos Planes. The way that Grenth and Doom differ majorly, when it comes to the way that they kind of ruled as the god of death, is that Doom did not allow the undead, and he did not allow any sort of resurrection magic. Grenth, however, does. Now, I would just like to briefly say that if Doom was still in power, we wouldn't be having troubles with Zhaitan, because there would be no undead. That's it. Anyway, moving on. There's after that, I got all flustered and I lost my spot. So Grenth is now he's allowing undead. He graced the human race as well as the other races with the power to resurrect. And so if even though there's death penalty, at least you don't have permadeath in there, so you can thank Grenth for that. And as the god of death, he's tasked with the judging the newly dead, and he sends them off on their way to their respective afterlife. Now, there are actually a few manuscripts that you can find in Guild Wars, and you can find one about Grenth in Guild Wars Prophecies. You could find one in referring to him in Factions, and you can also find one referring to him in Nightfall. And they read, the one from Prophecies reads, Necromancers learn early that the way to true power is by bowing down at the foot of the god of death and ice and pledging total, undying allegiance. Statues of Grenth depict the god with the body of a man and the skeletal head of a drawn-faced beast. Often there are followers at his feet grasping toward his open, clawed hands, clamoring for the powers that unforgiving deity may feel so inclined to heap upon his subjects. And so basically it's just kind of touching on what kind of professions that you would play as in Guild Wars 1 and how they relate and the actual kind of relationship that they have with Grenth, as opposed to just like, meh, he's for necromancers, assassins, and water elementalists. It's like it actually goes into detail of the kind of relationship that's between them. And so when it comes to the Factions one, where it mentions the assassins and the ritualists, it says it kind of says the exact same sentence for the first one. It says, Necromancers learn early that the way to true power is by bowing down at the foot of the god of death and ice to pledge total undying allegiance. The assassins of Cantha pay homage to Grenth and rarely take on a job unless a priest of Grenth places a blessing upon the task, which I found was really interesting. Ritualists who speak to and control the darker forces of the underworld also draw strength from Grenth's teachings. And then it goes on to say exactly what the Guild Wars 1 Prophecies manuscript says, where it says the description of it. But then it actually later on adds on to it saying, Canthan artists tend to add a draconic look to the skull. The Canthan version of Grenth stands astride a small mountain of the dead, but in Canthan art the faces of these corpses are always averted from the god of death, as if in shame to distinguish these enslaved dead from the living ancestor spirits. And here's the Nightfall one. It says, necromancers revere Grenth, as do water elementalists, who often punish their enemies with chilling cold. When the world is at its darkest, fearful souls pray to him as a means of last resort. Worship of Grenth requires sacrifice. Any path to his hidden secrets tests the soul as much as it does the mind. His acolytes and cultists know that the veil between worlds is thin, but if they can pay a price of blood and souls, the bodies of the dead will rise up and wreak havoc in the world of the living. The faithful know that when they die, their souls will eventually pass on to the mists, but they still pray to Grenth, so that he may ease their suffering along the way. And then it says the exact same thing that the prophecies one mentions about how he's carrying he has the face of a skull of a beast, but then when it comes to basically Alona specific, it says, throughout Alona, many of these statues have piles of bone and ivory beneath them, left as offerings by anonymous and fearful commoners. When life is difficult, zealous worshippers leave offerings of flesh and sinew, showing their devotion with fanatic displays of sacrifice. A dervish, assuming the form of Grenth, glares at the world through a bestial skull, measuring the worth of each fallen corpse. I thought that was really interesting because it really went in depth between, like I said, the relationship between the the professions and the god. Because I thought that, I don't know, it's just before in other video games, it just kind of seems like, they worship stuff. But here it's like they actually go into detail, because one of the things I find the most interesting is the religion aspect of any sort of lore, as I'm sure you could tell, because I'm always grabbing for the religion one. But I thought that was, I don't know, I find that so fascinating, and I'm so glad they went into depth about that. Now, when it comes to the Temple of Ages, when you find that statue of Grenth there, it shows the statue that's there is the one that that the Guild Wars Prophecies manuscript depicts, where they're grasping toward him. But there's a specific inscription on that I'd like to read for Grenth, and it reads, "Came then Desmina, scorned and exiled by her people, and in her misery and wretchedness did Desmina curse the gods for abandoning all who, like her, admired power and ambition. And asketh she, where is the god to whom I may give my undying devotion? Where is the god to whom I may beg revenge against those who scorn me? And rumbled then the earth from far below, and with a terrible groan split open. The ground grew white with frost and ice, and from forth the frozen earth spilled the rotted, skeletal minions of Grenth. Appeared then the god, and with bony hands outstretched, welcomed the girl into his fold. Saith he, I am your god, follow where I lead, come whence I call, and the rotted corpses of the dead will be yours to control. And swearing allegiance in life and beyond, did Desmina thence become the god's first follower. Scriptures of Grenth, 48 before Exodus. Now, first of all, I'd like to say, that would scare the crap out of me.
Yeah, you're not good.
Oh, where are my gods? Come follow me. I think not.
Yeah, right. Where's Dwayna? I want to follow Mariah Carey.
She's pretty. She can sing.
Tell me all about glitter and other things.
No.
Tell me that all she wants for Winter's Day is me.
We don't talk about glitter on this podcast. That was horrendous. I disown you. But Malcor actually had a brief inscription about him as well on his statue, and it says, Grenth I fear the most, for obviously, for in gazing upon him I saw my own end, but Grenth also embodies inevitability, the idea that all things have a time, and that time must inevitably pass. So,
you know what I would love would be like, I don't know what they would call it, not a Bible, but we have all these scriptures of Grenth and scriptures of Dwayna. Like, I would like a compendium of all of those, like, not just the little snippets that we read, but like a full historical book.
Thank you. I was thinking that, but I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking, when you were reading your scriptures.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh my, can we get like a human lore Bible? Can we just get all of these scriptures into one book and I can buy it and read it and study it and worship it?
Or at least find it in game.
Yes. And then I
I'll
would
back to my love for the Derman Priory.
Yeah. I'm sure they have it.
If there was one, I'm sure they'd have it.
Yes. Let's hope they go into that much depth to give us that.
I hope so. I mean, ArenaNet's crazy. They might do it.
I hope
So.
so. Anyway, that's my bit.
All right. Thank you, Dan.
Talk about my human one.
All right. So next is I'm gonna cover Balthazar and his crazy half brother Menzies, and then we're gonna throw back to Diint for Lissa, and then Casey's gonna round us out with Melandru. So, all right, Balthazar, pretty well known god of war and fire. If you played Guild Wars 1, you'll know a lot about. There's the Great Temple of Balthazar in the Battle Isles, and he's seen frequently and worshipped pretty heavily when it comes to PvP. He's the patron god of warriors, fire elementalists, protection and smiting monks, command paragons, and scythe dervish. Shiz. He is often associated, which I didn't know any of. I mean, I knew he's associated with honor and valor, but he's also associated with griffins, wolves, and hounds.
Random.
And the hounds, I figured from the Hounds of Balthazar, Elite Skill, and the special pet you can get in Guild Wars 1.
Mm-hmm.
But griffins and wolves is kind of random, I thought.
Yeah. Definitely.
He's worshipped heavily by the Zaishen Order. And again, like I said, you see him all throughout the Battle Isles. He is tied to the season of the Phoenix, which is summer. Apparently, I didn't know this, it's the best time to do raids. The season of the Phoenix. So if you're feeling you get the itch to go raiding, better do it in the summer. Better chances. And most sacrifices to Balthazar take place during this season. I didn't know anybody sacrificed anybody for their gods.
I did.
Well, I mean, to Grenth, I would figure.
But do they sacrifice like goats or humans?
All I got is sacrifices. Take it as you will. I mean, maybe you'd sacrifice your enemies, maybe, to Balthazar for, continued luck in battle. I don't know. But Kaysee mentioned that Abaddon was chained in the Realm of Torment. Balthazar forged the chains that held Abaddon, which I thought was pretty cool.
It is. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so apparently, I guess maybe smithing as well you might attribute to Balthazar. If he can create chains that can hold another god, which I found very heavy references. All I could think of was Hephaestus from the Greek gods, who's the god of the forge, the chains of Hephaestus were the only way you could hold another Greek god.
I was thinking now as well, but I was thinking of Thor and his light. The guy, is it the guy who creates Thor's lightning? That guy?
I think we're mixing. I think we're mixing mythologies here.
I think so too.
You mean the guy who would craft Zeus's lightning bolts?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he would craft any of the weapons and any of the things. He was horribly disfigured. His face was kind of burnt and everything. I forget, he was the... I don't want to go too much into Greek mythology, and Diint, you can back me up on this. Do you know who he was the son of?
Who was the son of?
Hephaestus.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I'll have to think about it real hard.
Okay, because I know he's the
Give
god
me
of...
a second.
Or type and look it up real hard. Either one. He's the god of the forge, and because he had like a burnt face and was kind of disfigured, he was kind of locked away in the forge. And like I said, he forged a pair of chains that could hold a god. He would forge the weapons of the gods.
He's the son of Zeus and Hera.
Ah, go figure.
The only love child, one of the only love childs that actually came from the marriage.
Yeah, really.
As well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's all I could think of when I saw that Abaddon crafted chains, physical chains that would hold Abaddon. I should say Balthazar, right? Or did I say something else? I don't know. But anyway, Balthazar is, as far as what he looks like, he's frequently shown holding a great sword, its tip lodged in the ground, with a pair of battle hounds sitting at attention at his feet. In Cantha, it's a little bit different. It's a one-sided sword, like a katana, as opposed to a double-sided greatsword. And in Alona, it's lions instead of hounds, which I thought was kind of interesting. So, as far as we're going to have a little bit more, we're going to travel back in time to ancient times as I read you the scriptures of Balthazar. So here goes. For weeks did the battle rage on, and those who had taken up the mantle of war grew weary, and their courage began to falter. Then did Balthazar, god of war and fire, appear to the soldiers, carrying with him a grand sword that did glow with such brilliance it blinded any who looked upon it. When he spoke, his voice was like thunder, and it shook the ground with force. Then saith he, Lift up thy weapons, for you are my soldiers, and must you be steadfast, strong, and brave of heart. They who neither hesitate nor stumble shall be rewarded. Then shall you have glory. Then shall your deeds be remembered for eternity. And then did release from his sword 100,000 flames which encircled the soldiers, for this was the fire of courage. And forthwith did they follow the god into battle without fear or hesitation. Thence was the enemy struck down. Scriptures of Balthazar 48 BE. So, I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I got chills reading that. I don't know.
Yes.
So, another thing that they haven't really touched on, and by they I mean ArenaNet, is it was originally said that because the original battle isles were washed away and destroyed during the Great Tidal Wave from the Rising of Ur, that it said that because you couldn't get access to the Battle Isles or the Hall of Heroes or anything like that, it was said that Balthazar, and this was a while back, that Balthazar opened a portal in Lion's Arch to the Hall of Heroes. And I didn't see a portal there, and I don't know if this has been retconned by ArenaNet or not, or it's just something, unless they change that and they're not calling it the Hall of Heroes, unless they're talking about World versus World or something. But what would make that extremely interesting would be the gods left at the end of Nightfall. This would have been after Zhaitan rose. So years and years later, Balthazar came and created a portal in Lion's Arch for the Hall of Heroes. So it would have meant he was paying some attention. But whether or not that actually happened, I don't know, because I don't remember seeing anything like that. So, oh, Dwayna. Anyway, but yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting that there's the potential for him to have come back and made this portal after he had gone and they'd all stopped paying attention to the humans. But like I said, I didn't see any portal to the Hall of Heroes. It'd be cool if there was, and my thoughts are maybe that's how you get your Hall of Monuments, is through that. I don't know.
It's a kind of open-ended one, isn't it? Because it wouldn't make sense if he came back and did it, but if they said that he was going to do it, maybe he's still watching from a very far away place or something.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think that, there's still, if you think about it, he's the god of war. There's a ton of war. Like, he's got to be loving it. I mean, I don't know. At least that's just my opinion on it. So, but yeah, I wonder if perhaps this trip if it is to the Hall of Heroes, maybe that is how you get access to your Hall of Monuments, because you would think that your hero from Guild Wars 1, after they're defeated and they're long gone, that they would be immortalized in the Hall of Heroes. for all the work that you've done.
Right.
So maybe that's how you get access. Because I don't think the Hall of Monuments is, or the Eye of the North. Some people told me it was confirmed to be in the game, but I don't believe it is, because I think that's too far north and too close to Jormag. Because Jormag erupted out of Drakkar Lake, which isn't that far from the Eye of the North.
Right.
I don't know. Did you guys hear anything about Eye of the North being in the game?
I thought it was confirmed, but I don't know where I heard it.
I thought that's where we were going to go fight Jormag, was an Eye of the North.
Yeah, that could be it. So that might not be in. But even so, that would mean you wouldn't be able to get your hall unless you went through the Norn area. So even if the Eye of the North and the Hall of Monuments, as we knew it in Guild Wars 1, existed, that won't be the case. Because if you're a human, or think about if you're, a Savari or an Asura, you're so far away, you then have to travel to the Norn lands and quest through all the way to that. I don't think that's going to be how it is. I'm assuming there's going to be a fairly central location you can get to. Which is why I'm hoping maybe it's this portal to the Hall of Heroes.
I've just looked at this post from an ArenaNet person, Regina, with a really hard to pronounce last name, and she says,
"Oh, right?
Yeah, is that what you looked at?"
No. I just I know the name. She's RB1 on the Twitter and the Facebook.
Oh. It says, from what the devs tell us, declaring your ancestors to receive the Hall of Monument rewards simply means linking your account, and then you should be able to get the items in-game in an instance version of the Hall of Monuments where you can claim your rewards. So it's obviously a place in the game.
Okay, well, I guess we gotta wait the 19 days, huh?
I heard that it was going to be, it was going to be in one of your home instances that the Hall of Monuments was located. And what you do is, the way you link your account is that you go in there and you quote unquote choose your ancestor.
You know what? That rings a bell. Now that you say that, yeah, because you would choose which character was your ancestor.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of that, just on a kind of a side note before I just touch on Menzies quick. I don't even know if it's pronounced Menzies, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. It's probably not. It's probably something totally different, like, I don't know, Mingus. Whatever. Anyway, I read today somewhere that there's an area, I guess at some point in a human storyline, where you can declare who your your ancestry, whether or not it's a Lonen, Tyrian, or like Canthan. Which I don't know where I read it, but I read it somewhere today. It might have even been in that post with the mobile app, where you can eventually make a decision about that.
Oh, I remember reading that. I thought it was saying you can choose from a role-playing standpoint.
Oh,
but
maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, but it could have, the wording was you could read it either way, so perhaps they are putting that in.
I hope it is like a canon storyline decision, and maybe that, I don't know how it would affect your story considering we can't go to Cantha or Alona, but I hope that it is, and maybe that'll set up for future expansions or something.
That would be cool.
Because I'd like to. I was always a huge factions fan. So I'd like to have my character be a Canthan descendant, even though my character would look nothing like a Canthan.
Well, what I'm thinking is what if that was how they differentiated your starting area for their expansions?
Okay.
You know how like they did, it was like, this is an entirely different expansion pack. It can be a standalone game, so we don't really need that. You just kind of like decides like, oh, I'm gonna play in factions, and so you choose that when you're making your character. Instead, it'd be a question. It's like, okay, well, where do you want to start? Do you want to start in Tyria or Cantha or Alona? Where are you from? Where's your family from? And then you decide that, and then it'll give you more options of like, okay, well, here's your story, your personal storyline for, the Canthan humans or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, it's been 250 years. It can be assumed that the Char and the Asura and the Sylvari and the Norn have at least somewhat branched out to the different continents as well. That's my assumption, at least.
Right.
I don't know.
No, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Speculation abounds.
I think it'd be a very nice way that I would appreciate for them to incorporate different starting areas for expansion packs. Would be to ask, what's your heritage like?
Yeah.
By the way, Lagwyn, ask and ye shall receive.
Uh-oh. Here we go. I love it. Folks, that is Colossus with a grin's face. For those of you that are wondering.
His shoulders fit so perfectly, I had to add that in there as well, just to kind of make the hood make sense.
Oh, I love it.
Yep.
You know what? And if Grant ever decides to totally dominate everything in Guild Wars 2, we can get the newer Colossus that is also Colossus is the Juggernaut as well. And then you can...
What do you mean Colossus is the Juggernaut as well?
Well, I mean, to just throw out a little Marvel history for you, the Juggernaut, the way you become the Juggernaut is you accept the Crimson Bands of Sidorak and become infected with, I think Sidorak is technically a demon, and that gives you the power to become the immovable force that is the Juggernaut. So the Juggernaut is not a mutant; his powers are magical, based on that. So anybody can become the Juggernaut.
Okay.
So Colossus gets them and is now the Juggernaut. So picture the Juggernaut, but with metallic metal skin on top of that.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
I thought... no, I'm not even going to say that because this isn't an X-Men.
No, it's not. Let's get back to the war.
I have to let it slide. Okay. So is it my turn for Alyssa?
Let me just cover Menzies quick. Or Mingus, or whatever we're going to...
Mucus,
yes. So he's Balthazar's half-brother. He's sometimes called Menzies or Mingus or whatever, the Mad, or the Lord of Destruction. So he commands a shadow army and other dark creatures, such as the Darknesses, which you find in Guild Wars 1 in the Realm of Torment. And his whole goal is basically to overthrow Balthazar and take over the Fissure of Woe. And he's gone about doing this several different ways. But basically he sent a priest, one of his priests, to assault the Fissure of Woe. And he corrupted various Eternals, which I don't even know what the Eternals are, which I probably should have looked up beforehand. They're Balthazar's ghostly army of followers of the Fissure of Woe. So there you go. So he corrupted those to kind of try to turn the tide. But although a lot of the Eternals were corrupted, Abaddon also claimed a bunch of them. So Mingus, Menzies, whatever, Mucus, he didn't get all of them. So Abaddon also had some. But he also made an alliance with Abaddon and Doom, like the servants of Abaddon, the servants of Doom, to help to further try to take over the Fissure of Woe. So he made a pact with these two gods, and he sent 3 of his Darknesses to lead a force of Doom's followers and demons in an attack on the Hall of Heroes through the portal from the Primeval, or the Tomb of the Primeval Kings. And his latest movement was Menzies' forces. The latest movement of Menzies' forces, holds them in various places in the Realm of Torment. So he also has been known to have forces in Ravenheart Gloom, which is an area in the Domain of Anguish. But it is unknown where he is currently. So if he's living within Ravenheart Gloom or he's somewhere else. But that's pretty much all we know about him. They don't really touch on how he has a half-brother. So does that mean the gods can, have any kind of relations, if it's with some other god or how the gods were born, but somehow there's some kind of birthing process that he can have a half brother.
Real weird images going
on. But yeah.
That means, the gods are sleeping around with other people. It wasn't like a. It sounds a lot like the Greek gods, where they just sleep with anything that moves.
Yeah, pretty much. And the only other thing I just want to touch on quickly is Balthazar has his own realm, and that's the Fissure of Woe. And all the gods do have realms, but we only know of a few of them because those are the ones we get to see in Guild Wars 1. Like, Grenth has the Underworld, and Cormyr/Abaddon have the realm of Torment, or the Redeeming Realm. And Balthazar has the Fissure of Woe, but, you can play, it's one of the elite endgame areas that you can play in Guild Wars 1. So, you can battle against Mingus and his shadow armies. But yeah, it's said that it's going to always be in conflict, no matter what. So I'm curious to see what happens with that, given, in Guild Wars 2, because we're not really human-centric anymore. So will we even be able to enter the realms? Will we get like a human-centric expansion, or like extra content where we just touch on, the human things, and can get like a racial expansion thing? Like, let's talk about like the Char and the Flame Legion, and talk about the Asura or whatever. And then now here's our one on the gods, where we go into the different realms of the gods. So, but that was pretty much all I had. So, Diint, we'll send it on to you here, so you can talk about.
Okay. I would like to briefly touch on what I mentioned in the human episode when it came to the correspondences between the human gods in Guild Wars and the Greek mythology equivalents for us. I had theorized that the goddess Lyssa might correspond with Aphrodite, perhaps, but I did a little bit more searching. I also found that there is a Greek goddess named Lyssa.
Oh.
And, however, she is the goddess of mad rage, frenzy, and rabies.
Oh.
So, so I'm going to assume they're not really all that equivalent.
Oh, I imagine like these beautiful two twins just both.
That's bath salts for you. But yes, but when it comes to the actual Lyssa in Guild Wars, she is the goddess, the twin goddess, really. It's kind of theorized of whether she's one entity or really just two twin girls. Sometimes it's depicted as one entity, sometimes it is depicted, visually in art, it's depicted as just, two twins. But she or they, whatever floats your boat, are the goddesses, whatever. Lyssa's one person for me. She's the goddess of beauty and illusion. And she's the patron goddess of assassins, again, with Grenth as well, but she's also obviously the entire patron saint for mesmers. She's associated with energy and chaos, and if we were to get like really nitty gritty, she's for like energy storage for elementalists and mysticism with dervish. She is greatly revered and celebrated in the Elonian region of Vabi. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly or not, but Vabi.
Yeah, it works for me.
Whatever. They actually have a whole festival for her called the Festival of Lys. And it's an annual Vabian celebration held on the day of Lys to honor her. I don't know what has gotten in me. Allergies. I'm sorry.
All right.
But she's the patron saint of Vabi. And it is said that Lissa, she basically shaped the land, quote unquote, and molded the Vabians in her own glorious image. So that's why they're, head over heels in love with her. The celebration is held in the Garden of Simborhin, which you can go to in Guild Wars 1, I believe. And like Dwayna, she's also tied to the season of Zephyr. Now, before I mentioned the manuscripts for Grenth, they also have the same for Lissa here. And I'd like to get in touch. I'd like to read that if you don't mind, because I really like how they really go into detail between the relationship between the player and the goddess. So it reads, for the prophecies ones, it reads, the twin goddesses of beauty and illusion, Lissa, is the patron god of the mesmer profession. Many a spellcaster has fallen under the charms of these two, making it easy for them to choose to specialize in the mesmeric arts. Mesmeric.
Whatever.
Lissa is usually portrayed in her natural state, a pair of twin. Intertwined. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. I can't read my... It goes on. I read the comma as a period, and I was really confused. Let me start that over. In her natural state, a pair of twin intertwined goddesses. There we go. Back to back, no illusions or glamours involved. There are stories of young men stopping to gaze longingly at statues of the beautiful goddesses, only to forget themselves and die of thirst while simply looking on. This reminds me so much of the Greek story of Narcissus, or whatever his name was. Narcissus. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then that was the entire prophecies one. The factions one, it's not as completely cut and dry as it is for the Grenth manuscripts between the prophecies and factions. Here it reads, twin goddesses of beauty and illusion forming a paradoxically. Why am I getting all of the hard words?
You always
paradoxically singular entity. Lissa is the patron god of the mesmer profession in the northern Tyrian continent. In Cantha, she also represents the incarnation of luck, both good and bad. Many Canthan assassins revere Lissa more for her intrinsic duality than her famous beauty, and have been known to invoke her charms. Depictions of Lissa in Canthan culture reflect the typical northern style, lithe twin figures for exquisite beauty entwined in an eternal dance. And the Nightfall one reads, the patron goddess of mesmers wears many masks appearing in myriad forms. Patrons of the arts effusively praise her, particularly in the courts of wealthy Vabi, but some fear her as a temperamental goddess. Behind her beautiful facade, some say, she maintains a deep communion with chaos. Displays of art and culture please her, but her wrath is terrible to behold. Wrath. What is wrong with me? But her wrath is terrible to behold. Her followers use her magic for illusion, trickery, and deception, twisting the magic of others to suit their own goals. Basically kind of like magical Aikido, I guess.
I guess so, yeah.
By her whims, her enemies are brutalized by despair and hopelessness, while her beautiful followers are elevated to heights of rapture. Heyo. Tyrian artists often portray Lissa as two goddesses, twin figures of exquisite beauty entwined in an eternal dance. In Alona, the masks may change, and the dance may change, but Lissa's dual nature does not. She is beautiful to some and terrifying to others. A dervish, assuming the form of Lissa, wears multiple masks, challenging blessings from mayhem and magic. So, I don't really care for that one as opposed to the Grenth one, because it didn't really go into detail of really the relationship between the two. It was just basically like, this is why they like her, but also are afraid of her. It didn't really kind of show that strong of a relationship as they did with Grenth.
Right.
But I will just briefly read the inscription on her statue in the Temple of Ages as well.
Sure.
It says, and it was that a stranger came to the village of Ren, seeking shelter and employment. Though young in years, her body was stooped and twisted, her flesh eaten by disease. Ye have the mark of plague upon ye, said the citizen named Galric. Leave this place, lest you sicken our people. I've lost my family and my home, cried the desperate woman. Have you no heart? Yet each person in turn did look away. Then from the crowd came a young woman, Sarah. She looked upon the woman with pity, "If you need help," said Sarah, "I will give it." And Sarah did approach the gnarled, bent woman and did offer her a helping hand. Then the sickened woman pulled from her body the robes of plague, revealing herself to be the goddess Lissa. The people of Ren fell to their knees, begging Lissa's mercy. But lifting Sarah gently, saith she, "True beauty is measured not by appearance, but by actions and deeds. Many have eyes, but few have seen. Of all here you saw the beauty behind the illusion, and you alone shall be blessed with my gifts." Scriptures of Lissa, 45 before Exodus.
I really want a book. I really do.
I know. And just briefly to sum it all up, just real quick, I'm going to give you the description from Malcor on her statue. It says, "Lissa, when gazing upon you, I see beauty, but it is ephemeral. The illusions fade upon your passing, leave me to wonder if I ever knew you at all, and yet I knew I could not look away." So, there you have it. That is Lissa for you.
All right. Well, thank you, Diint.
You're welcome.
So, all right, that will send it over to Kaysee. You want to finish up our God talk here as we probably approach 3 hours at this point? I don't even know.
Oh my God.
For Melandrew?
Yeah, so I'll try and be quicker.
No, don't rush it. We can always... You know what? People could just suck it up.
Yeah. You know what? I love the religion in Guild Wars 2, and so I'm fine if we have a 92-hour episode about it. I will listen to all of it.
Everybody always says they love the length of ours, and they would listen to us talk for forever. So, the only people I know that say they won't listen to it because it gets too long are all of my friends and family. Like, all of my friends that are on our forums, and I know in real life that play Guild Wars with us, they're the only ones who are like, man, dude, those podcasts are long. But everybody else is like, oh no, I love it. I'd listen to you all day. So it's like, well, this is for those people.
I'm getting the exact same thing on my end.
Yeah, so. Alright, sorry, take it away, Kaysee.
Okay, so Melandrew is the goddess of nature, earth, and growth. She's depicted as having a human female torso and a lower body made from wood. Her shrines can be found all around Tyria and offer comfort to travelers. In Alona, she's tied to the season of Scion, I think that's it, which is autumn. And during the harvest in the season of Scion, Alonans thank Melandrew with many earth-aligned rituals. And there's a scripture of Melandrew here, which is, "And it was the tribe of godless humans wandered, and it was that a tribe of godless humans wandered the land, where camp did they lay waste." Gosh, where they camped did they lay waste, senselessly destroying everything nearby. And so the tribe set out to find another camp, when suddenly sprouted a wall of thorny branches which blocked their exit. Then saith Ewan, leader of the tribe, "Know ye our ways. Whoever does magic in this tribe shall be put to death." Yet no one comes forward. Then from the earth sprung forth a large tree, and unfurling its branches revealed the upper torso of a woman. Saith she, "I am Melandrew, the mother of earth and nature. Henceforth I bind you to these lands. When they suffer, so shall ye suffer." And as she saith, so was it done. From their limbs sprouted branches, and the blood of their veins was the sap of trees. Then was Ewan and his tribe converted and became the stewards of nature. So that's her scripture. And I was wondering about these stewards of nature. Could they be the oak hearts?
Possibly. Stewards of nature.
Because it was kind of a weird thing to say that they became the stewards of nature, but I was wondering if maybe they could be any creatures that we could actually meet. But yeah, so also she has a plaza in Divinity's Reach called the Plaza of Melandrew, and below her statue is an inscription from Malcor, which is, "In the presence of Melandrew, I felt my weariness wash away, as if rejuvenated by the sweet embrace of spring. Wherever she walked, the sun shone, and truly I felt the beauty of life." So she's kind of my favorite god because she's just lovely all round, there's not really much about her being awful except about turning the people into the stewards of nature.
I'm sure they deserved it.
Yeah, definitely. And then the scriptures about Melandru on all 3 continents and on Tyria. The goddess of earth and nature, Melandru is the favored god of rangers and earth elementalists. It is said that the Maguma druids at one time worshipped this deity, but there are none alive today who confirm the truth of this rumor. Melandru is frequently depicted as a human female torso whose lower body is the trunk, branches, and roots of a living tree. Her statues attract weary travelers. Beneath her branches await plenty of fresh water and shelter from the elements. So that kind of ties into when you went near a Melandru shrine, you'd get a buff in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And in Cantha, many Canthans, especially the suspicious Luxons and the warlike Kurziks, believe that the goddess of earth and nature has abandoned the empire. They believe that not even Melandru could have withstood Shiro Takagachi's literally petrifying death cry. But Melandru's devoted followers, the Rangers, Earth Elementalists, and many cultist sects know that this is merely a misunderstanding of what the goddess truly represents. They know that the goddess endures within the crystalline shell of once thriving Canthan landscape. Melandru is frequently depicted in both Cantha and Tyria as a tall winged dryad from the waist up, but whereas northerners see a creature whose lower grows naturally into a living tree, Canthan artists usually describe a severe figure ensconced in an outcrop of Ecovold quartz. Melandru's roadside temple offer shelter, food, and water to weary travellers, even in Cantha, though such shrines are few and separated along by long stretches of lifeless stonescape. So, and in Alona, rangers and earth elementalists leave offsprings to Melandru, trusting to her guidance. Throughout Alona, roadside temples to the goddess offer shelter and water to weary travellers. Wandering dervishes maintain many of these shrines. With her blessings, the ground can slow or snare enemies. Wanderers can survive in the harshest wilderness, and masters of magic can shape the very foundations of the earth. Most statues of Melandru show her as a tall winged dryad rising from a tree-shaped base. Many temples use magic to shape the shrine from living trees. For example, Alonian structures often rise from the base of a nyaba or a rooted dream flower. A dervish, assuming the form of Melandru, has an arboreal appearance, acting with the same resolve as trees with roots deep in the earth. Sorry. So they basically say the same thing, but I thought it was really interesting that they use magic to shape the trees.
Mm-hmm.
It's very reminiscent of Safari.
Yeah.
Which was very interesting. And a lot of people kind of theorize that could Melandru be a Sylvari? And tie into this kind of a big connection with Melandru and the Sylvari race, but I'm not sure what to think of that.
It's tricky.
Because then it wouldn't be a human god, would it, if she was the Sylvari?
Right.
Yeah, and also she came from another planet.
Yeah.
Somewhere else, anyway.
Does it say that the gods came from another planet, or that they just brought the Tyrians to this one?
Well, they brought the humans to this planet, presumably from somewhere else, but I was never under the impression that they were there currently, because they built, they started working on ore alongside the humans.
That's true.
So I think they were somewhere else. And I get I think it was Alec Carolina had mentioned it at one point, that maybe the other planet or wherever they were was, became like post-apocalyptic-esque.
Yeah.
So they needed to get out in order to survive. So.
And just quickly to finish off, there's trivia about Melandru, which is the Quaggan reveal Melagin, who human scholars believe to be the same deity as Melandru, but the Quaggan don't think so. The Quagan are just too polite to tell the human scholars that Milaggan is different, and they believe that Milaggan was killed. And you can actually see the Quagan worshipping sunken Melandru shrines in. I think there's one that I definitely know of is in Gendarin Fields.
Okay.
There's a lake in the middle, and you can actually see the Quagan worshipping that shrine. And the second point of trivia was, this is really random, is Melandru is badger in the Asturian language, which is a Spanish dialect.
Nice.
So I just thought I'd mention that.
Badger.
That's all I could think of. Badger.
Mushroom.
All right. Well, thank you, Kaysee. Again, doing an excellent job. We will definitely be sure to have you back. Naveen and I already talked about this. If ever one of us can never be here to cover something, and we need somebody else, you are our go-to replacement host.
I love doing this. So much fun.
And now we know it's not just because of your perfect voice. It's because of the extensive research that you do as well.
Yeah, and your ability to make us look bad with your awesome PDFs.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. All right.
But it's okay. The honey Melandru don't give a shit.
And the memes continue. Oh man.
They're just everywhere.
We are.
Should edit these onto the video.
Right?
So it doesn't random that we're like, I just saw the glint dragon.
Oh.
Yeah, that's my best work.
Yeah, that's the best, hands down. That's why I can't wait to do, if we could do the what's it called, read Edge of Destiny as an audiobook.
Yeah, Kaysee, I don't think you were a member when that happened, but it was basically we were all doing the whatever it's called, the different shards of the dragon or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. And the Guild Wars 1 and Prophecies, after you become ascended and you have to go talk to Glint. We were all, it was over Skype, and they were all talking about how funny they thought it would be if I were to read what Glint was saying over what she was actually saying. So I put on the whole, like, whatever his name is in that Honey Badger video, I put on that voice and just said everything that she was saying over her in that voice, and they thought it was hilarious, and they started calling me Gint. And so I did that.
Oh, man. That was good. If I could only find a line from her that I could throw in.
Oh, there's one at the bottom of that screenshot.
Oh, is there?
And she says, it was almost 800 years ago when I first saw the Flameseeker prophecies. Or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, that was how it went. And you missed out on some good times back in the day, a couple months ago. But yeah, I think that pretty much brings us to an end here. And we can kind of start to wrap this up. So I guess in closing, keep an eye out for our thank you episode. We're not sure if we're going to do that this week, or we might wait till Naveen comes back. It's really all dependent on our schedule, since Thursday we're recording another episode, and the Wonder Down Under will make a return. So, and like I said, we'll get more in-depth into some Kaysee lore and learn a little about her.
If you have any questions for me, or you want to know anything about me, just post them in the forums.
Yeah.
And I will answer.
But or if you'd like to send the questions to us, you can send them to hosts@chroniclesoftyria.com, or post them on our YouTube page after we upload this podcast. Next episode, we're going to be talking about, we know, the Skrit, the Hylek, and whichever one I want to talk about, which is down to either the Quagan or the Dredge. What do you guys think?
I think you should go for Dredge.
No!
Well, Naveen will then get the Quagan, and I think she's fond of them.
Yeah.
I got the Hylic because of their religion.
Yeah, well, it really doesn't matter because we are going to do another episode down the road where we're going to do the Jotun, the Kodan, and whichever third one we don't do on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really just a matter of time of whether or not we do Quaggin now or Quaggin later or Dredge later.
Well, then I'm thinking Quaggin for Thursday because then, because the Dredge aren't that common, but the Quaggin are, and so we're going to be talking about on Thursday the more common minor races. I think we can leave the Dredge for the other one.
Okay, then I will be talking about the Quaggin.
Yay!
So that'll be that, and you guys will make sure I post the video next on Thursday of the Quaggin song, which everybody knows. But if you don't, we'll post it then.
I don't know it.
Oh, well, okay, I'll link it to you. But it's in game, the Quaggin song. But yeah, so if you have any questions, about any of those 3 races, or about Kaysee, or about this stuff, or comments, send them to host@chroniclesoftyria.com or any of our other social media that we have. We will be again posting the links to Colossus Grenthlosus, as I call him, and Mariah Carey Duena as well. But I did want to mention a couple other things quick before we kind of close it out. I know I've been saying that for like a million hours so far, but I know Diint had mentioned that we're going to jump into World versus World right out the gate, and that is the plan. And I've mentioned before the Team Legacy article called the 48-Hour Marathon, where it talks about, proper ways to plan and schedule and build all that stuff for when the game comes out, and how to, manage your time, manage your food, manage your sleep schedule. I'm going to come up with a tentative schedule for myself for what I'm going to do for the first 48 hours of the game. And I'm not going to put every single thing down because I don't want, people bothering me the whole time. But I am going to let you know, like, for the first 4 hours, I'm going to be, on Tarnished Coast doing, X in World versus World and all these different kinds of things. So if you guys want to find me in-game and come and play with me, I'll let you know where I'm going to be so you can come find me. And chances are I'm going to be rolling with a handful of Chronicles of Tyria people. I know Diint, at least for a little while, and a few others. So if you'd like to come and play with your podcast hosts or other just cool people from Chronicles of Tyria, this way you know where to find us. And
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's... I had thought about today, and I don't know if it's going to be realistic because of podcasts and Guild Wars coming out, but I thought about possibly doing a, down the road, a sort of, like, let's play kind of a deal where, like, I'll tell you, Saturday, August 14th or whatever. I mean, I know that I don't even think that's really a date, but, on a given day from, this time to this time, I'll be on, let's say Xbox Live playing, I don't know, Mass Effect free multiplayer. And that way, if you guys want to come on and log in and play for a little while, you can come in and I'll be there playing. Or I might be playing, I don't know, Gears of War or Call of Duty or, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles classic arcade game. I don't know. On various different platforms. And, if you guys want to come and join me, that I'd be down for that. If that's something you guys would even be interested in, send me a message. Leave me a comment, and maybe I'll set some kind of stuff up like that in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know about Diint, what he's got going on, or other people from Chronicles of Tyria. Maybe we'll do like a community event, like tonight, on this day, it's going to be a night of whatever, and we all go play this to kind of pass some time before Guild Wars comes out.
Maybe.
So.
Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, just trying to build things for the community, and, get people that maybe don't want to spend all the time listening to our long-ass podcasts.
Yeah.
So they still want to interact with the community a little bit. So.
By the way, there's a little present for you sitting in the chat there.
Oh boy, here goes.
It's bad.
Oh, Oh, guys. Oh. Diint's attempt at Thomas
I
Engine.
don't want that on a t-shirt.
No. Thank you for that, though. So, I would, I just want to have everybody come out and have a good time and get to have more interaction with us and come play Guild Wars 2 with us and just join the community, read the stories, write your own stories. You never know. I mean, if you write your own story on Chronicles of Tyria in the forum chat, you could get featured as a special guest writer and get your stuff up on the main page and maybe even become a full-fledged writer at one point. So, but yeah, we're kind of rambling on way too long, and all of the stuff I said was pretty much useless just then. So, all right. So unless you guys have anything else important and, worth mentioning, I think we'll kind of wrap this up.
I'll remember it after we finish recording.
Of course. Diint, how about you?
Nope, I'm good.
All right. So we'd like again to thank Kaysee for coming out and helping us with the podcast. So thank you again.
Thank you for having me.
And you'll be back for sure.
Yes.
I can tell you that.
Yay!
But definitely on Thursday.
Lots of script.
Yeah, exactly. Holy script. So
Puns.
yeah, that's
Puns.
so for Chronicles of Tyria podcast, unlucky or lucky episode number 13. I'm Lagwyn.
I'm Diint.
And I'm Kaysee.
And we'll see you next time.